Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 2023 meeting of the Tucson Amateur Astronomy Association. We meet the first Friday of every month here. And so we hope that those of you who are here will remember in future months, the first Friday, that this is an entertainment option for you. We have people attending in person tonight. We have people on Zoom, and we have people on Facebook. We will make sure to give anyone and everyone an opportunity to ask questions of the guest speaker. We'll just rotate among groups to do that. And for those of you who are on Zoom and looking on Facebook, you will note that when we're taking questions from the audience in the room, there will be a lag between the commentary there, because I need to use this microphone to walk around to the people and give it to them when they ask questions. So there's, some distance in there, and sometimes you don't have anything new on the screen during that time, and sometimes there's no voice during that time. So don't worry about the lag. It won't be too long a lag. So we need to ask that people who are attending in the room do not talk at all while we're on Zoom, because it interferes with the sound on Zoom and people will hear what you say. The other thing is that we need to ask that you have no other Zoom open in the room besides the ones that our tech people have open, because multiple Zoom being open from different sources in the room complicates the sound, and it often makes it so garbled that you really can't understand what the speaker is saying. I'm Mae Smith. I'm the Tucson Amateur Astronomy Association president, and we have some people tonight helping us on Zoom. So Susan Knoll is operating our camera for us, and Jim Knoll and Terry Lappin are helping with operating Zoom and also operating the Facebook and the recording, because after the meeting, a day or two after the meeting, a recording will be placed on YouTube of the meeting so that you can access it again later there. And our first, our presenter tonight is Dr. David Levy. And many of you will know a lot about David because he's so active and in astronomy, and you encounter presentations from him so much. One of David's very special areas is comets. And so he's going to share with us information about comets tonight. And we're also very proud of the fact that David is a past president of TAAA. And he's done a lot of work with us over the years that we really appreciate. So, David.
Thank you so much, Mae. Thank you, Mae. We had a very interesting practice session for tonight on Tuesday, and you will find out in the next 45 minutes just how successful that practice session was. I was told that I cannot go over 45 minutes. Now, what we have done is right up there where the projector is a large can of boiling oil. If I go beyond 45 minutes, you're welcome to press the red button, which will send the boiling oil on to me. If I still go on, behind that door are a lot of bicycle parts and auto repair stuff and wrenches and stuff that you can attack me with. And if that still doesn't work, on this side, you've got a baseball bat. So at some point, I will stop my lecture. I want to tell you that this is the first in-person lecture that I've given. in about 6 months. So I have to tell you that I'm a little nervous about it because it's been quite a while since I've given an in-person lecture. And one of the members asked me, says, okay, when you give a lecture to the club, act like you're doing Comets 101. Don't even pay attention to your personal side, to your stories. Just act like you're doing Comets 101. I thought about that for a while, and I thought they might as well be asking me to tell you everything I know about comets while standing on one foot. Or tell you everything I know about comets and not breathe in or breathe out. I can't do it, it's not me. So what you're going to get tonight is the magic part of it. We're going to get so comets, a little bit about the science, a lot about the history, a little about the poetry, and then a lot about the magic. Now, there is let's see, this is like, that's good, yeah. Okay. And then we're getting right back to the first comet that I ever saw. And that's, if I can get to it, here it is. No, it's not. Seneca's Comet. We're going to start with Seneca's Comet. Can you all see that? Yes. That's the first comet I ever saw. I was a little younger than I am now. But what I was able to do was by taking the position of the comet on a certain night when it was bright, I was able to do this sketch of it from the position. Quite honestly, none of you in this room have seen Seneca's Comet. Seneca certainly did, and he was a little bit nervous about it because he had rumors that the Emperor of Rome, Nero, was actually going off on his own ways, doing what he wanted to do and not what he was supposed to be doing, making sure the chariots run on time, but a lot of other things that he shouldn't be doing. And so one of the things Seneca said is that this comet shows that the great Nero is the best emperor since Donald Trump. I'm glad someone laughed at that one. Anyway, he said, this comet means that the emperor's reign is going to be wonderful. And that kept him going for another couple of years. And in 65 CE, his reputation was going way downhill. And the emperor said, because you're a famous scientist, I'm not going to tell you how you're going to be put to death. You have the choice of A, B, and C. And he chose to be poisoned. And so Seneca was put to death. And this was one of the great comets of about over 2,000 years ago. We have other comets. Of course, Halley's Comet of AD 66. Halley's Comet, the first time it was seen was probably about 200 BCE. And Halley's Comet was seen. It was a very bright comet. They had really two kinds of comets at the time. They were called either bushy star comets, where you just have, like the one we all saw last night, Comet ZTF, the Zwicky Comet, which you've all read in the paper is green. And oh yeah, I saw it last night. Boy, was it ever green. Peter will back me up. It was so green, it was flashing on and off. And then on the other side of the comet was a red light flashing on and off. And on the top was this twirling blades. No, I actually did see the comet, and it ain't green. Comets, if you want it to be green, you have to put it into Photoshop and bring up the green filter. Otherwise, it's just like every other comet. It's a wonderful comet. Peter and I saw it last night, and with the moon and everything, it is a bright one. It's a beauty. And in about a week or so, the moon will get out of the sky and you'll be able to see it gorgeously, which is what David and I are going to do when we go down to CAC. And if I remember, I will actually even put in a request for reservation there, Jim. Thanks. The beauty of Halley's Comet in 66 was that it came and it interrupted the Battle of Hastings. It either interrupted it or it foreshadowed it. I'm really not sure which, but there is very nice, um, a very nice image of it, very ancient data, as you can see, on the chapel in Bayeux, France, where it's just beautiful inscription showing Halley's Comet. And here, even just very old data, Giotto did a painting of it. And Giotto's painting has lasted through the centuries. And I think a lot of you notice that, oh, now we can see it. Okay. A lot of you notice that in 1986, the European Space Agency sent a mission that they called Giotto to encounter Halley's Comet. And it actually gave a very nice image, and which I don't have here. Anyway, the Great Comet of 1680 was not Halley's Comet, but Halley obviously was alive at the time and he enjoyed seeing it. 2 years later, there was another Great Comet of 1682, and that was Halley's Comet, although Halley himself didn't know. It was witnessed by Halley himself, and as Leslie Peltier writes in Starlight Nights, he said, it bequeathed to it who probed into its periodic past. I'm trying to remember what Peltier wrote. Probed into its periodic past and gave to it an honored name that it could bear with pride through the solar system. Now that's something attaching some magic to comets, as I think Leslie Peltier knew how to do so well. We're going a little bit further to a painting done by currently active Spacewatch scientist Jim Scotty, who painted this image of Comet Yakutaki in 1996. Everyone was all excited about Hale Bopp, who was coming in 1997, and this guy kind of said, excuse me, I'm going to get in first. And it was discovered by Yakutaki, who has since passed on, in late 1995, and it became very bright in 1996. I remember, and there's somebody watching on Zoom tonight, Tim Hunter, who might remember this. I was visiting with my friend Tim Hunter, and I was rushing home so I could go out and get pictures of Comet Yakutaki. And as I was rushing home, I tripped on his stairs and sprained my ankle. So I had to go to the hospital and get this done and get that done. And they took an axe and tried to kill me, but that didn't work. I still got home in time, plenty of time, to drive out to see a place with a nice image to the north. And I looked and I saw Comet Yakutaki's head sort of over there, that's near Polaris, and its tail stretching all the way across the sky to Corvus in the south. I reported that the next day. And someone from JPL said, no way, it is impossible that you could have seen the comet with a tail that long. In order for the tail to be that long, the tail would have had to stretch out beyond the orbit of Jupiter. A couple of years later, one of the NASA space probes sent off to passing Jupiter detected ions from the tail of Comet Yakutaki near the orbit of Jupiter. And the fellow wrote to me, he said, I have to take back what I said. You did see it that long. It's funny, sometimes the theoreticians come up with an idea, the observers go out and see something a little different, and somehow they have to wind up to an agreement. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. The Great Comet of 1881, a beautiful comet, another one that kind of interrupted because people were looking forward to the Comet of 1882, and then this one came, this very, very bright comet. The comet that came the year later, 1882, was a sun grazer. And Barnard, the great observer Barnard, was observing that comet every evening as often as he could. And he was trying to draw its changing shape from night to night. And then one night he saw not one, but 5 comets in the field of view. He couldn't believe it. Why did this comet? Turned out that the comet of 1882 had split, and there was multiple pieces of it that were spreading off the nucleus. One of those pieces, I believe, came back in 1965, became the great comet of that year. And, and now as we come forward a little bit, we get to Comet of Kiyosaki, the great comet of 1965. And now we get a little bit into the magic and the personal history. I was alive back then. I was in high school. And I had heard that there was a comet that had been discovered. And I thought, comets are one thing I've never seen before. I missed Comet Merkos and I missed Comet Arendt-Rowland. But here was Comet of Kiyosaki. I had a good shot at seeing it. And I went outside early in the morning, over morning after morning, and I could not see any, all I saw was clouds lining the sky over Montreal. And finally, I was able to get up one morning. I had overslept, it was 5:30, but the dawn hadn't started yet because it was getting into later fall. And so I quickly got up, got onto my bicycle, rode up to the summit of Westmount, near where we lived. And as I'm going up that final road, I'm looking between the houses, the driveway between 2 houses, and I saw a great searchlight beam rising out of the St. Lawrence River. I've never forgotten that. God, that was beautiful. It was a fabulous, fabulous comet. And not 2 weeks later, I was walking towards my high school, Westmount High School. And I was knowing that this was the day of the French oral examinations. In Quebec, the law states, and I think Peter can test me if I'm wrong on that, that you cannot matriculate and pass matriculation unless you are somewhat bilingual in English and French. And I knew that one of the questions they'd ask is, what do you want to do as a career? And I thought, well, what the hell do I want to do as a career? I'd like to be an astronomer, but I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do. But suddenly I thought of a Kiyosaki, and I thought of that wonderful comet, and I thought, I want to discover a comet. And that's easy to say in French. Je veux découvrir une comète. So I got to the school, big boardroom. And I'm sitting at the end in one chair, little tiny chair with my head just barely above the table. And at the other end, in a great big throne-like chair, wearing long black robes, was Mr. Hutchison, the head of the French department. And he asked a few questions that I answered as best I could. And then he asked me what I wanted to do as a career. I had the answer. I thought about it. I sat up straight as I could in the chair, and I looked at him and I said, Monsieur Hutchison, je veux découvrir une comète. Mr. Hutchison, I want to discover a comet. Hutchison didn't know what to do. He took his glasses off, he looked around, and he finally looked at me and said, how the hell do you expect to make any money doing something like that? And right away, everyone in the room started laughing, including him, including me. And then he said something I've never forgotten. He said, okay, I'm going to give you credit for this, if only because it is the most unusual answer I have ever received from this question. But if you don't find a comet within 20 years, I'm going to come back and I'm going to lower your mark. I found my first comet 19 years later in 1984. So I got in under the wire. I started searching for comets in 1965 on December the 17th. And I wanted to choose that date because that would have been the anniversary of the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903, when they had this bicycle-driven plane and they flew it less than the length of a 747, a modern 747, before landing. But that was the first flight. And for me, that was the first flight of searching for comets. 10 minutes between Pollux and Castor in Gemini. It was pretty easy to do. I did it in between clouds. I could tell you that I was walking our Beagle, but I won't tell you that. But I was walking the Beagle, and the sky started to clear, and I decided I was going to go back. So I'm heading back home. The Beagle had other ideas, and he's wanting to continue walking, and I'm going this way, and he's pulling that way. And finally, I was able to tell him who was the boss, and he came back, and I started my search for comets, which I am still doing. I haven't done it in a couple of days, but I do it whenever I can from my home in Vail. And at least once a month, David and I go out to the CAC site and I can tell you that the CAC site is one of the darkest observing sites in the world. There none. It is a fabulous observing site. If any of you have not been to CAC site, plan to go sometime. You won't be disappointed, but make sure it's a moonless night and a clear night so that you'll be able to get the magic that CAC offers. I found my first comet in 1984, but that's not what I wanted to talk about when it comes to discovery. My greatest discovery of a comet was not a comet at all, and that took place at the end of April of the year 1977. I was married at the time to what I call my practice wife, and we were about ready to head to Kingston so I could enroll in graduate studies, get my master's degree in English literature. I had no idea what I was going to major in or do my MA thesis on, but I didn't really care. I'm sitting there and I'm observing these meteors. It was a clear night and we were having a few. It wasn't a heavy night, but there were a few meteors here and there. And my mind started to wander. Wonder how many older astronomers have been out here on nights in April to look at the Lyra meteors. And then I thought a little wider, opened my brain a little bit more. And I thought, I wonder how many poets, writers in a number of languages have bothered to look up at the night sky. I made the discovery while I was watching the Lyrids that night that I wanted to carve out a career showing the relationship between the night sky and English literature. The next day we went to Queen's University. I met my thesis advisor, my wife. My first practice wife. I'm not married to anymore, but the love and passion that I have for the topic of the night sky and English poetry is still with me. On that day, my thesis advisor introduced me to Gerard Manley Hopkins. How many of you have read Hopkins in high school or college? I bet you those of you who have are afraid to put your hands up because you hated him so much. He was impossible to read. His rhyme scheme was skewed. He was very complicated and was very difficult. And the best thing about him was that his poems were mostly fairly short. So they would end after a short time and they could go and do something else. Except when he was an undergraduate student at Balliol College at Oxford in England. And he wrote a poem about a comet. I am like a slip of comet, scarce worth discovery. In some corner seen, bridging the slender difference of two stars. Come out of space or suddenly engendered by heady elements, or at the time of writing, no one knows. But when she sights the sun, she grows and sizes and spins her skirts out while her central star shakes its cocooning mist. And so she comes to fields of light. Millions of traveling rays pierce her. She hangs upon the flame-cased sun and sucks the light as full as Gideon's fleece. But then her tether calls her. She falls off. And as she dwindles, sheds her smoke of gold amidst the sistering planets, and then goes out into the cavernous dark. So I go out. My little suite is done. I have drawn heat from this contagious sun to not ungentle death. Now forth I run. You might notice that I've memorized that poem. I never really tried to. It's just kind of reciting it so often that it just came to memory. I'd seen a few comets by that time, but there were a couple that I found on my own. And of course, there's the great comet of 2007. That was a beauty. That was really something. But you had to be in the southern hemisphere to see it the way it looks like it does in this picture or this picture. But I don't think you needed to be in the southern hemisphere to see what it looks like in this picture. This is a picture of the comet. The main picture shows the comet as seen from Los Angeles in February of 2007, I think. And about an hour away from perihelion, I knew the comet was very close to the sun. I had to be very careful to set up my telescope so it didn't accidentally hit the sun on an accident. But I was able to get this inset. And the picture I'm showing you was the one with the inset that became the astronomy picture of the day for that day, for this wonderful, wonderful comet. And it's another picture that I took that year, a number of years earlier of Comet Yakutaki, but that's in the wrong order. And this is a photograph that I took one really cloudy and rainy night. It was the end of the summer, the end of the summer storm season in the summer of 1990. And I knew that a comet I discovered that May was really pretty bright, but that we couldn't see it because it was cloudy because of the summer storms. I knew it was in Scorpius at the time. I set up my Schmidt camera and I noticed there were some breaks in the clouds. So I waited till that bright star appeared briefly, and I took like a 30, 40-second exposure, just taking the towel off the camera and letting it expose. I brought it in, developed it, and this is what I got. It was really such an exciting picture of the comet that I found in 1990. And we do have this one. Giotto did get a close-up of Halley in 1986. You will never see this from the ground, but a spacecraft went soaring by Halley's comet in March of 1986, a month after its perihelion, and they were able to get this picture showing the potato-shaped nucleus of Halley's comet. Beautiful, beautiful comet. And other comets, one of my favorites is Comet Encke. This is a photograph taken with the Hubble Space Telescope, but Encke is one of my favorites because it comes back so often, every 3 years. If you miss it once, you only have to hold your breath till it comes back in 3 years and you get a chance to see it again. Once, it had a very poor apparition in the year 2000 when it was just barely coming up above the horizon when dawn came. I was able to make an independent discovery of it that morning, but I knew right away it was Encke's comet. I was really very pleased I was able to do that. And this is a comet taken with the Hubble Space Telescope just before, in fact, considerably before it had its first repair operation and taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, just as a test image. Another comet, one of Peltier's in 1939. There are a lot of comets in the sky, comets that appear, disappear, do all kinds of wonderful things, and then come back. Some never come back, like as the news people are certainly enthusiastic to tell us Comet ZTF is going to come back again in 50,000 years. I mean, some of the younger people here might plan to be here in 50,000 years. I sure won't, but maybe it'll be a nice comet to see. I wonder what color they'll say it is. Little bit of trivia. Comet ZTF, the Zwicky Comet, is not the only Zwicky Comet in the sky. There is a second one that you need to know. And that is, I think now in Cassiopeia, heading south. It's not as bright as the first one. But David, I'm hoping that when we go to TAC next time, we could try to find it. Okay, thank you. Let's see if we can see it. I'd like to see the fainter of the Comet CTS. Remember Comet Temple 1, we had a meeting right here, and the president asked what the sky was going to be like the following day when a spacecraft was going to nudge this comet to see what happens. This is a photograph showing the comet somewhere along this line, and a meteor going right through the image and right through where the comet is. And then we have this comet and the comet of 1680, beautiful, beautiful comets of history. And now we get to the final comet that I would like to discuss tonight. I know the boiling oil was up there, and I wanted to talk about Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. I've given a talk here where I talked a little bit about the science of it. Given a talk here where I've talked a little bit more about the history of it. What I want to tell you about tonight is the artistry of it. It was a comet. I remember in March of 1994, Gene asked me, where are you going to be during impact week? And I said, well, Gene, I'm planning to be in California, where the skies are supposed to be clear on the summer nights, and I'll be able to get a good look at the impacts. Where are you going to be? Carolyn and I, he said, are going to be in Washington. Where are you going to be? And I said, you just asked me. I'm going to be in California. So I paid it back to him. I said, where are you going to be? And he said, he looks at me very intently, says, we will be in Washington. Where will you be? I said, Gene, I'm going to be with you in Washington. And he said, oh, thank goodness. Because we've been reading all about how the great fizzle is coming. You're not going to see anything. And we'll need your help to find a rock we can hide behind if that happens. That didn't happen. I remember the first images of the Hubble Space Telescope that showed the impacts were really spectacular from that very first one. I remember fragment G 2 days later that lit up Jupiter brighter than all of Jupiter itself. It was really magnificent to see that image. And what I have here are these are the discovery images of Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. And while you're looking at that, I have something that I would like to show you. Please hold the boiling oil for a minute. Yeah, you can turn up the lights briefly. I'd say about 5 months ago, I got a text message from Patrick Shoemaker, Carolyn and Jean's son, cleaning out the Shoemaker house, getting it ready for sale. They had finally found the original discovery images of Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. This is one of them. And that's what it looks like on the wall. You can turn the volume down now. I'm going to put it away because I don't want to lose these. We thought they were lost. We're still looking for the stereo microscope, which I thought might have been at Lowell Observatory, but apparently it's not. It might be at the U.S. Geological Survey, or it may just be lost. But we at least have the images. We have the original pictures. what I'm going to do is I'm going to close with the magic. And then I'm going to close after that with just one small story. But this is a piece of music. I'm not sure if the people online are going to be able to hear it or not, but the piece of music deals with secret. It's called Secret Garden. It's done by an Irish group. And I thought it was really appropriate. The first verse is done to images of Comet Shoemaker Levy 9. The second verse is done to, the second verse will be done to images of the impact of Shoemaker Levy. to get to the final words that I wanted to share with you tonight. I started the talk by saying that this is the first talk in person that I give in about 6 months. And I think you all know the reason for that. And all the other talks that I've given here, Wendy would be sitting right in the front row there. And as I did the final quotation, I would look towards her and she would be lip syncing with me as I read it. It was her favorite one, and I'm going to end that night with it. I have to tell you that this was really tough for me tonight because I miss her so much. I miss Wendy so much that I can't even begin to describe it. But life will go on. It will go on doing what I really am supposed to be doing. And what Wendy would be livid with me if I did not. I'm going to continue observing the night sky. I told her one day that I was going to stop searching for comets, and she right away said, "Why the hell would you do that?" Because I'm never going to find one again. What do you care? And she's right. So as I do the final talk tonight, the final poem tonight, I imagine Wendy is sitting there saying it with me. I stood and stared. The sky was lit. The sky was stars all over it. I stood. I knew not why. Without a wish, without a will, I stood upon that silent hill and stared into the sky until my eyes were blind with stars. And still I stared into the sky. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. I think you probably hold the record for perfect timing of your presentation. So David was so concerned that he might run over, and you just were so diligent about that.
I needed to put that part in.
Oh, yes, it was perfect.
Yeah.
So now we will take questions for David, and we're going to do this a little differently than we usually do, and that we're going to start in the room here with questions from people attending in person first. We'll get to our people on Facebook and our people on Zoom, but we're going to start in the room first. So if you will raise your hand, okay, we have a question. And for people on Zoom and Facebook, remember I'm walking to where the questioner is so that we can share the microphone. So there's a lag.
Hi, could you describe a bit more in detail on how you actually hunt for comets and what you're looking for in the night sky, and maybe about the equipment that you use?
Thank you. Good question. It's very simple. I have a telescope. I have it sort of either on a table or I'm sitting on a chair at the eyepiece. And I'm looking, if it's in the evening sky, I'm looking down towards the west. If it's in the morning sky, I'm looking up toward the east. And I search for one field and I go to the next and the next and the next. And I go up and down in a zigzag pattern until I'm finished. Whether it's a few minutes, whether it's an hour, or on nights when I'm at CAC or at other places, it's much longer than that. And I've been doing that since December 17th, 1965. I did have a photographic program for a while, one that I did by myself and one that I did in conjunction with Gene and Carolyn Shoemaker. That's the program that used the 18-inch of Palomar and led to the discovery of multiple comets, including Shoemaker-Levy 9. And now as I'm getting older, I'm kind of back into just the visual, just enjoying it, doing what I love to do. Thank you. Good question.
Another question. Okay. And people with questions, don't be afraid to move around the room with your questions as you think of a question. It's not a problem for me to walk around. It just has you sitting there for a few minutes. So that's fine.
Thank you. Well, what an honor. I'm brand new to TAAA. I'm not brand new to stargazing. August 12th, 1977, I was driving from Denver to the Grand Tetons at night, and it was the most magnificent Perseid shower of my life. I thought the sky was falling. It must have been it was a big summer that for the meteors. Anyway, so I went to the stellar binocular place, you know, the guy, Frank, and I bought some good binoculars because I really want to see the comet. And I wondered if you could direct me. So I don't want to miss it because I probably won't be here in 50,000.
Last night, Peter and I saw it. If you draw a line between Capella in Auriga and the North Star, and it's about a third of the way from Capella down towards Polaris. That's kind of where it's been, and it's moving to the west. It will be a little off that line right now. But if you were observing in Denver, you might have heard of the Denver Astronomical Society. And that's a wonderful organization. If you ever go to Denver, pay them a visit there. Very good group. Good point. Thank you for mentioning that.
Where should I go look? Because I live pretty close to the university and I get too much ambient light where I'm at. I don't know where to go.
I would suggest that you go online and find out when the Flandreau Science Center is going to have their next telescope observing session. Or take yourself over to the planetarium and see it with them.
Oh, thank
They'll be doing that a lot.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks so much.
observation. Good point.
Okay. I'm headed over. I've got another hand.
Across the aisle.
Yes, across the aisle. There you go.
You. Have you ever tried to figure out how many hours you spent doing this per discovery?
I recorded the first. The first was 917 hours and 22 minutes. The second one was about 205 hours. The third, we're getting shorter and shorter. I think it was less than 100 hours. And then it was about almost 1,000 to the comet that I found in 2006. And it's couple of thousand since then. I honestly do not expect to find another one. I just love doing it. And May, behind you, there are two people on the other side.
Yes,
of
I'm
the
not
aisle.
looking behind me, am I?
This is a historical question. I was just studying Ezekiel and Yehezkel, and I noticed just before he had his vision of the holy chariot, the throne of God, he claims to have seen something glowing in the north around Polaris. And I was thinking of this Zwicky comet because actually it was right around Polaris before it moved to west. And I saw it glowing around Polaris. And I was thinking, wow, Ezekiel saw something glowing around Polaris just before he had the vision. That's called the Merkava, the holy chariot. It's very important in Kabbalah. And I was wondering, has anyone ever figured out if that was a comet and which one it was that Ezekiel saw before he had his vision? Now, when I went to sleep that night, I didn't have a vision. I was disappointed, but I was hoping. Anyway.
That's a good question. There are a number of biblical references to comets. And I don't know, except for one, I have no idea what comet that your Ezekiel might have been interested in, what he might have seen. But in Chronicles, there is a story about King David taking a census, an ill-advised census of Jerusalem. And apparently that was ill-advised. Because as punishment, there was a sword hung in the sky over Jerusalem. And that was late enough that they could kind of date it to approximately 1000 BCE. And there was a comet seen in China, a big, huge Broom-Star comet that might well have been the comet that's mentioned in Chronicles. And I think that's the only one that has a possible real progenitor that's been figured out. But with Ezekiel, it could have been hundreds of dozens of them. I have no idea. Good question. There are a lot of symbols while we're waiting for the next question that have gone in ancient times to describe comets, besides the bushy star, which is the comet ZTF, and the Broom-Star comets like the comet of 1680 or more modern comets. But one of the symbols was a four-winged comet head that actually resembled it to me exactly a swastika. And I do understand that Hitler perverted the swastika image, but in ancient times, the swastika has a long and noble tradition, partly related to comets. Your question.
Yes, in your biography, you state your disinterest in going to space. Another Montreal boy named William Shatner recently decided to do that and went to the edge of space. Has you ever reconsidered doing that?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I'd be stupid if I didn't. But what I can say as an answer to that question is that every time I think about wanting to go into space, and I think, well, if NASA were to call me and they built a launch pad right next to my observatory, but close to the house so I could have some lunch and then go out. And if the launch would be after my nap, so I'd be rested. And if they promised to get me home in time for dinner, I'd be interested in going into space very, very much. But the real thing is, when I'm outside and I'm with my telescope, or if I'm just sitting outside watching for meteors, shooting stars, or if I'm just outside conversing with a friend, I'm as close to being in space as I ever the hell need to be. Good question. Thank you.
Okay, I'm coming down front a little bit. Well, could you wait and say it so that people on Zoom can hear?
And I can't hear.
Hi, yeah, I just want to, I'm curious what makes the comet green.
Quite honestly, you put it into Photoshop and you add the green filter. I don't think that this comet ain't green any more than any other comet is green. I don't know where the press got that idea. I think it's a stupid idea. Comets are comets. And certainly this one is about the color of all the other comets. It's kind of a little bit off-white. And maybe if you take a long exposure with a color camera, you might get a little green tinge, but nothing special, certainly nothing to write home about.
I'm red-green colorblind anyways. I never would have seen it anyways. I was just wondering why
Yeah.
people said that.
Don't worry about the color, just enjoy the comet.
Another question in the audience for David?
While we're
Okay,
getting ready for the Facebook questions, I
so
do have,
yes,
if May doesn't mind, a publicity announcement. On
We
the
can run
18th of February, which is the anniversary of Clyde Tombaugh's discovery of Pluto, there will be a book signing of my latest book. Well, my autobiography will be there, but my latest book is about my childhood beagle, the one I walked up with when I started searching for comets. It's called Clipper, Cosmos, and Children, Finding the Eureka Moment. It's about a little magic beagle, takes a group of kids on a run through the heavens and shows the night sky. It'll be from 2 o'clock until 5 o'clock at Star Arizona on the 18th of February, and you're all invited to come. The 18th of February. Thank you.
All right, David, we have one question and a comment on Zoom and lots of thank yous. The question from Ben Bailey is, which attracts you more, the science, the magic, or the art?
I would say the magic and the art. The science is interesting. I remember reading 2 items on a flight I was on some time ago. And one was a scientific paper about a comet. And I got about the first 7 words into it, and it made no sense. It was all it was completely nonsensical. I couldn't understand a word of it. Then I got into another paper about the history and the magic of the comets, and that just pulled me right into it. It is, to answer your question, it is the magic and the art and the poetry that really gets me into the comets.
All right, and then one comment from Gary Wells. He says, it was because of your discovery in 1994 that I was insistent upon being able to see it with my own eyes. I couldn't afford a telescope at the time, so I built one from scratch out of practice particle board and used 8mm film canisters for altitude variance. It was my first foray into astronomy. And on that July night, I got to see the impact sites with my own eyes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
And that's it on Zoom. So we'll go over to Facebook.
All right, so there's no questions on Facebook. There was a question about where is CAC and what is CAC, and so I answered those online. But what was the time of the February 18th book signing?
February 18th, 2 o'clock until 5 o'clock or later.
2 to 5 or later. Okay,
Yeah.
and lots of thank yous on Facebook, and they did hear the music on Facebook,
Thank you.
and that's
Oh,
it.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. We're always so delighted when you could come and be with us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we appreciate your spending, so much time on getting your presentation so nicely organized for us. That was wonderful. We wonder if we can make a little change in schedule tonight. Dr. Krikoshka is here, and we wondered if we could move your presentation up on the agenda, and you might be able to do it now. No? Yes, okay,
Okay.
good.
That goes in front here.
Eric is one of our members, and he's a professor in the Lunar and Planetary Lab at the U of A. And he is also our planet reporter and does a planet report for us every month, which is posted on our website, as well as he does it here in person for us. Thank you, Eric.
Well, this time you get the planets not just for February, but also for March for the next 2 months, because I will miss the next meeting. I'll be in Antarctica there. And you can blame this on David Levy, because he gave a really nice lecture several years ago about Antarctica, and so I want to go there too. So in the evening sky, we have Venus and Jupiter, the 2 brightest planets. Nicely visible. Venus is low and Jupiter is quite a lot higher, almost vertical above it now. And they will switch places by the end of March. It will be opposite. And so Venus is becoming more brilliant, getting higher up, and Jupiter is going lower at dusk. And on March 1st, so almost 4 weeks from now, they'll meet each other. So Venus will pass by Jupiter at only 1/2 only half a degree distant. So it's very close conjunction between the two brightest planets, and when they are good, well visible in the evening sky, that's also always a great sight. So don't miss that event, because Venus is moving fast, and within a few days, the separation will be a lot bigger, 1 degree each day. Then much higher up is Mars. It transits at 83 degrees high, so there's not much distance to the zenith. Right now, it's still a really nice telescopic object. It's 11 arc seconds, but by the end of March, it will be only 6. So it really recedes quite fast from the Earth. Also, its magnitude will decrease from 0 to 1 during that time. And it's moving from Taurus to Gemini. Right now, it's still close to Aldebaran. And then at dawn, we have Mercury. It's visible till the 18th of February, till the book signing date. And then it will go behind the sun and come back in March 26th at dusk in the evening. The last of the bright planets is Saturn. That's starts to get visible on middle of March, March 16, in the dawn. Right now it's behind the sun and really not visible. Then we also have Uranus up in the sky. It's when twilight ends. Right now it's more than 70 degrees high in Aries. But from month to month it will get closer to the sun, so it's best to not wait for its observations. I want to mention 2 minor planets, the first 2 ones, number 1 and 2. Number 1 is Ceres. That's opposition on March 21st. And it's 7th magnitude, so it's really easy object for binoculars. And because the opposition isn't on that day, it just runs through the Virgo galaxy cluster. So during March, it will go close past several galaxies. And if you watch it from day to day, you get from one galaxy to another one. So that's an interesting journey there. The other one is Pallas, number 2. And it's in Canis Major, so it's 50 degrees off from the ecliptic. And if you look at planets or most minor planets, they get a few degrees off from the ecliptic. But Pallas orbit is inclined so much that you can see it 50 degrees off the ecliptic. So it's really far off. Last not least, the comet ZTF is 6th magnitude now and will fade to 11th during the next 2 months. So you really cannot wait too long to see that it's brightest. It will move from Auriga to Orion during time. And my guess is the best viewing will be around February 6th, because the next few days the moonlight is so bright that it won't be too impressive. But on the 6th of February, the moon will just rise when twilight ends. So if you just get it around that time, then it's still bright. And the next few days, you have longer periods, of course, where the sky is dark. What was most impressive to me was and still is the extreme fast motion of the comet. It's 6 degrees per day, and it's half as fast as the moon appears in the sky. And almost no bright comet makes it that. And it's so fast because it's really very close by the Earth. Last few days was its closest approach. And so I looked in the telescope and I wanted to see how long does it take until I can see the motion when the comet is next to a star. And I came estimates to 10 to 15 seconds. So every 10 to 15 seconds, you can see that like the angle between the comet and the star changes. So you really can almost say you see it moving. And that still is the case for a few days, but once it gets further from Earth, and the proper motion will really decrease a lot. So happy observing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. And we always appreciate Eric when he's going to be out of town and he can't be with us the next month, that he pre-does that report so that you won't get it after the month is over. You get it just a month early. So thank you so much for all of your help. We are now going to say goodbye to our Facebook people. We appreciate them being with us tonight, and we hope they will come back on another first Friday of the month. It's always the first Friday of the month at 6:30, and that we're here and that we will have a Facebook opening for people to join us. And of course, you will be able to find the recording later on YouTube. So we appreciate you coming with us. We hope you'll look at our website. We hope you'll look at our membership options, and that you'll have fun and lots of new interesting information from all kinds of astronomy resources. So thank you for being with us tonight, and we hope to see you next month.